I'm Kevin Le Gendre, speaking to you from St George's in Bristol, and in this series I'll be introducing an exciting range of new music by outstanding jazz talent from the south of England. From a region-wide call-out, 10 composers have been selected to create a new piece of original music for Jazz South as part of its Radar Commissions programme. Each composer has been invited to write for any combination of up to 3 performers with no limits on instrumentation or creative concept. The result is a wonderful and eclectic mix of musical styles and compositional ideas, showcasing the talent of each composer and performer, as well as a range of concert venues, studios, and other more surprising recording locations in the south of England. We will now hear The Sanctuary, composed and performed by Rebecca Nash on piano and Nick Walters on trumpet and live electronics. The piece is in 3 sections, titled Primordial Breath, The Sanctuary and Old Straight Road. The commission is filmed at St George's, Bristol.
Rebecca, your radar commission has a very specific concept and premise, which is ley lines. Can we start off by talking about how you came across this, why it inspires you, and how you translate it into the music?
Yeah, so I mean, it's something that I've always been really interested in, and I think we ended up having a conversation about it and just thought it'd be really interesting subject matter to explore.
Generally speaking, when we think of ley lines, we think of some kind of connection between a part of the land and prehistory, or going right back in time, maybe something a bit mystical. And certainly in that first piece, Primordial Breath, there's that sense of something which is very, very deeply rooted, something which goes way back in time. Did you try and capture the energy of something primal that could go into the music?
Yeah, I mean, the title for Primordial Breath, for me, it came from a conversation that I had with a lady called Jude Caravan, she lives in Avebury and is a sort of specialist in this, that whole field. And one of the things that we talked about was the Big Bang, and her sort of understanding of it, is it not being, a kind of huge explosion, but this kind of gentle hum that came first before everything. So that was really the inspiration for that piece.
Well, the Big Bang, it doesn't come much earlier than that. Something which is in our past, something which we can't escape. Permeates all of history. Nick, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I found really fascinating about sort of researching these ideas and looking into them is seeing how ideas morph over time, how everyone kind of puts their own spin on things and has their own interpretation. But also, a lot of this stuff, especially looking back into prehistory, there is no actual definitive answer, and no one really knows. People can offer opinions and interpretations, and they can base it on various bits of archaeological evidence. But at the end of the day, no one can definitively say these objects were placed in this alignment for this reason. It's all very murky and hazy, which I find quite fascinating.
Did you write together, or did one person start and the other responded? How did the composition process actually unfold?
So, I mean, it all started, didn't it, when we both took a trip to Avebury together, and there's a wonderful walk that you can do around all the sites. So we started at the Henge and then made our way down to the Sanctuary and then up to the Long Barrow and then back to the Henge where it began. And as we walked, Nick took his microphone and we recorded samples of the sounds that we were hearing on this walk. And that was really the beginning of the writing process, I would say.
Musicians going a long way back in time have been inspired by nature, by the sound of the sea, the wind, the land, etc., bird song. Tell me a little bit, Nick, about your connection and the inspiration that you draw from those sounds and how it filters into the music.
Yeah, I guess there's two elements to the sounds. There's the kind of, as you mentioned, the kind of atmospheric sounds like the wind, bird song. We got quite a lot of that, which was really nice. And then there's also, I also went into it with the idea to get some more percussive elements to try and create some beats. I was definitely inspired by someone like Matthew Herbert, building beats out of different sounds that you might not expect, different to your normal kind of drum sounds that you hear all the time.
All of the pieces have these very evocative moods, these strong moods. Tell me, is there a specific story behind the second piece, The Sanctuary?
I mean, we both spent quite a lot of time there on that day. We sampled, I mean, it's an incredible place. It's there's these sort of rock formations in a circle which mark out a sort of an ancient structure that was there once there. So we were actually sampling the sounds of those rocks. So all the beats that you hear are the sounds of us, tapping the rocks or hitting them with things and just sampling them, basically. It did feel like, for me, I felt like that was it's a very special place, and it felt very calm, actually. It felt like a really quiet place to be. It's actually on the side of on quite a busy road, but it doesn't feel like that at all when you're there.
I thought the music had a real sense of calm and meditation, maybe a certain grace. I've never been to that particular location, but I imagine that it's pretty amazing to look at.
It does feel like that when you're there, doesn't it? It does feel, I mean, I can't say, yeah, for sure there's like higher energies or, stronger magnetic forces, but I was definitely aware of a very much a sense of calmness on all the sites, actually. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. And also for me, I remember just being inspired by the mystery as well, just thinking, what did this structure used to be here? What did it used to look like? Why was it built here? What kind of things happened here? And what was the motivation of the people at the time for what they were doing? No definitive answer to any of those questions, but inspiring to think about.
And the third piece is really intriguing. I don't know, Nick, whether you want to shed some light on that without giving too much away, perhaps?
Again, the title comes from the research about ley lines. So the Old Straight Track was a book written in the 1920s by a guy called Alfred Watkins, and he's often credited as being one of the first people to popularize the idea of ley. In fact, he even coined the term ley. He called them leys rather than ley lines. So it's a nod to Alfred Watkins.
So you've been doing this beat making, which is quite different to what you do with Atlas and some of the other projects. I wonder this time round, is it a little bit of a departure for you?
I think it's not a departure. I think being from Bristol, I have a kind of love of dance music and, kind of groovy stuff, which actually found its way a little bit into my album Peaceful King, which Nick and I worked on the title track for that. So it's not a departure, but it does feel quite different to any of the other music that I've made up until now. And although having said that, Nick and I have worked together and studied together. So one of the things that I love about Nick's band Paradox Ensemble is all the grooves and all the beats and some of the samples that you've created for that music as well. So I just knew it was going to be really fun to work together on this project.
Nick, as we know, you've used samples and beats before, but this is a different context, isn't it?
Yeah, very different, and it's something that I've been wanting to try out for a while. So it's been great to have the opportunity to basically have kind of electronic elements in a live setting, but also manipulating the electronic stuff in real time, rather than just kind of creating something beforehand, pressing play, and it just happens. So it's been a bit of a learning curve, but very enjoyable as well.
Obviously, the pandemic has hit us all quite hard this year with the constraints and no gigs, no contact, being isolated. It's been particularly challenging, I think, for a lot of people, especially musicians. But most of them have said that there have actually been some positives that they've taken out of it. Rebecca, can you tell me a little bit about your point of view, how you've dealt with this situation, and if indeed there are positives?
I mean, I'd probably agree with that. I'm sure I speak for a lot of musicians that, in saying that I've had to sort of upskill myself massively in so many areas. And actually, perhaps if we were working on this project at the beginning of the lockdown, I would have found it more challenging. But, getting your head around home production, getting your head around, sending music to other musicians to work remotely, and just, kind of finding your feet with that has definitely been a plus side for me, that I'll be able to kind of take forward into the future for sure.
Yeah, similar for me as well. It's been a good opportunity to do lots of practice, which has been nice, and yes, to write music and try out new things in new areas where previously might not have had as much time to be able to experiment and try out some new stuff at home.
Will it be developed beyond the Radar Commission?
Yeah, definitely for sure. Yeah. We're already thinking about next tunes and how we can release it. And Nick's actually got a record label that he's setting up at the moment, so we're hoping we might release it on that, which is exciting.
We will now hear Boundaries, composed by Run Logan Run, who are Andrew Neal on saxophone, Matt Brown on drums, and Chris Jones on double bass. The commission is filmed at St Winifred's Church in the village of Maniton on Dartmoor. Andrew, you said in your artist statement for the Radar Commission that you'd been quite heavily immersed in the world of electronics with the first version of the band, the duo, and that you were moving to something more acoustic with this new lineup. And that's been quite exciting for you, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, basically, we had just finished recording our latest album, and we added in quite a lot of extra stuff, so we sort of realised once we'd got to the end that we needed to get someone else in the band because there was no way we could do everything that was going on ourselves. And that's when we got Chris here involved.
We'd rather get a human than backing tracks.
Yeah,
any day.
We're quite anti-computer, so. Yeah.
It's forced everyone to play very differently. In the rehearsal room, it's been really exciting to hear.
Yeah.
I think that's where I've kind of naturally, when we first started playing in the room, the three of us, that was my go-to natural role was to be the supportive one. So take some of the onus off Andy where he doesn't have to cover the entire sonic range. He doesn't have to be his own bass player, his own piano player, and his own lead. He can just kind of go off and start exploring a bit more because I can hold the rest of the stuff down. But then the more we've played in the room, I think we all kind of assume that role at different points where each one of us, I mean, we're all playing for each other the whole time, but sometimes one of us or two of us will be more supportive and allowing someone else to kind of take the reins and go wherever they want to.
Andrew, you said in your artist statement for the Radar Commission that you'd been quite heavily immersed in the world of electronics with the first version of the band, the duo, and that you were moving to something more acoustic with this new lineup. And that's been quite exciting for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was the jazz self-commission has been really. It's been good for two reasons. It's been good for us as a trio to work together because it's kind of I feel like we've covered quite a lot of ground through the process of writing this piece together. But also, it's been fun experimentally working with a different palette of sounds as well. I don't think it's something we're still definitely going to get back to the electronics, but it's been good doing this as a kind of side project. It's been really good doing this because it's made us think, oh, what extra possibilities are out there? And I imagine at some point we'll probably start to blend things a little bit more together as well. So maybe we'll have, because we're thinking about recordings differently these days as well. The first records that we made were always just capturing what we do live, whereas now we're kind of thinking about recordings as being something different. So that's going to give us the opportunity to blend acoustic sounds with more electronic sounds as well.
I was struck by the piece Dartmoor, and obviously that's a place which is really stunning to look at. The landscape has inspired many different artists. Incidentally, Kate Westbrook, who is in our podcast series, her group, the Granite Band, makes reference to the granite quarries of Dartmoor. So how does the landscape of Dartmoor actually inspire you, and how does that permeate the music?
Yeah, I think it's just this barren landscape. I mean, part of it is the whole lockdown thing and getting back outside again, because I used to be really outdoors a lot, and with everything stopping, it's given me a chance to go running outside a lot more. So I've spent a lot more time outside, and just sort of realised how much I love being outside in the nature. I find it really inspiring, and Dartmoor specifically just really gives you that feeling that you're just a small, tiny speck on the planet, you know, and it kind of makes you, that kind of, personally, that gives me comfort knowing that I'm not actually important at all. And then specifically the story that we found out about Kitty J. So there's this legend that this woman, she was an orphan and she was kind of disgraced, so she ended up taking her own life. And at that time, if you committed suicide, you couldn't be buried in a church grounds. You had to be sort of, they used to, it's quite gruesome. They used to bury people with a stake through their heart on the boundaries, so that if their spirit came back, they couldn't they wouldn't know which way to go, and they couldn't come back and haunt people. And I just thought that was like a really kind of poignant metaphor for where all the artists and musicians are at the moment, being stuck on these boundaries and not knowing where our future lies.
So how do you think that permeates the music then?
I think, yeah, you're right. I think each movement's got a very, very individual energy, and like especially the first movement for me has always been quite an awkward, angular, uncomfortable feeling to it, which kind of was super tying in with the idea of the kind of where the creative industry is at right now. Yeah, and then the second movement's a bit more lyrical, I think.
Yeah, I feel like each movement can represent different points of kind of Kitty J's life or experience.
Yeah, we are quite conscious of not being too literal about the story, but yeah, it's definitely there in the music.
Mm-hmm.
I understand you actually plan to record on Dartmoor?
Yeah, so the Kitty J story happened in a village called Maniton. So we're going to film in the church where perhaps she might have been buried if she hadn't taken her own life.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, this has been a very testing year for everybody with the pandemic and lockdown and restrictions and isolation, etc. I've been asking all the artists this question: is there anything potentially positive that might have come from this situation among the negatives?
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely, yeah.
Absolutely.
I think we've all, obviously, we like you say, we've all been writing out a lot of kind of negative emotions and stuff, but I think we've all kind of at different periods experienced some, or had these positive realizations. I think we've all benefited from not being so busy all the time, and actually taking a chance to stop and smell the flowers a little bit has been really important. And kind of that prioritizing what is important.
Yeah, I think everyone's a lot more open as well, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, in all walks of life, but especially in the music scene, it seems like it's easier to talk to people now and put forward ideas, and everyone's just in it. We're all in it together, so everyone's helping each other out, and it feels like some of the hierarchies have kind of broken down a little bit, which is really, I think that's definitely a positive thing. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Jazz South supports the development of jazz across the south of England outside London. It is led and hosted by Turner Sim Southampton, a concert hall and live music producing organisation with support from the University of Southampton and funding from Arts Council England. We hope that you can join us for more recordings by these outstanding jazz composers. Visit jazzsouth.org.uk/radar sessions for details on the series. Please join us next time.